This has to change. It's proven incapable of fulfilling the needs for stability here in France. So I believe that pretty much, I'm not going to say anyone, but any qualified person that would assume the role, but that after a consultation with the parliament would have a better result.
And let's head to France, where Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu has quit after just 26 days in office. He succeeded François Bayrou, whose government fell when MPs rejected his budget, but faced immediate backlash over a near identical cabinet and mounting threats of a no confidence vote. Just a little earlier this evening, I spoke to Éléonore Caroit. She's an MP in President Macron's Renaissance Party, and she gave me her reaction to Sébastien Lecornu's resignation.
It is more the result of the current crisis, which is also the result of a very divided National Assembly and France's learning curve as it goes from a very presidential regime to a more parliamentarian one. So it is worrisome, and it is a new episode in this mindset change. But I do believe there is a way to build a government, a coalition, and adopt a budget.
I mean, this is the third prime minister to resign after serving just a few months. When you say that you think that there is a way ahead, I mean, what is that? Who could actually pull together a government given the divided nature of the assembly?
So the story is a bit different. You had a prime minister that was appointed and was censored by the National Assembly in a gesture that was rather unique, whereas the far right voted with the far left and all the oppositions after a budgetary discussion. That was the first one, Michel Barnier. Then you had another surprise, another unexpected event. It is the second appointed prime minister, François Bayrou, who decided to call for a confidence vote when he didn't have a majority at the National Assembly. And now there is a resignation. So it's actually been different steps, different learning processes. And I think the main issue here is we have a government that is appointed by the president and by the president only, without having to consult the parliament. And I think this has to change. It's proven incapable of fulfilling the needs for stability here in France. So I believe that pretty much, I'm not going to say anyone, but any qualified person that would assume the role, but that after a consultation with the parliament would have a better result. I really liked Sébastien Lecornu. I just think the process and the methodology was not the one we needed in a very divided assembly.
Well, underlying this, of course, is the fact that President Macron called the elections when he didn't need to a year or so ago, and he doesn't have a majority. So, I mean, what can change in the process that can help him to resolve this?
Well, what happened, though, is he felt that he needed to call for the elections because the opposition had been extremely difficult to work with, opposing to pretty much everything. I'll give you a simple example. The right opposed to the pension reform, which is something that the right had historically been asking for. So it was a difficult time in 2024 when the snap elections were called. I obviously did not think that they were absolutely necessary, but this is the past, and we have to stop looking at the past. I think right now what needs to change, what must change absolutely, is having MPs building a coalition and accepting that there are some things in their programs that will be adopted and others that will be dismissed. But until today, you have here in France MPs saying, well, I want to be in power and I want to apply my program, but they don't have a majority. I mean, maybe we have to go and travel more through Europe and see how it works in other countries. And, that will help actually understand this need for coalition building and for compromise.
Well, as you say, there doesn't seem to be much scope for compromise. And certainly Marine Le Pen's party are saying that the time has come that President Macron should call new presidential elections. I mean, since he seems to be overseeing all of this, do you think he should now call presidential elections?
You're absolutely right. That's what they're doing. They're trying to push him to present his resignation or to be dismissed. And I honestly do not believe that this will bring more stability to France. And I honestly do not believe that this would actually reassure the markets, nor that the result of this election called for in urgency without due preparation would result in anything good for a country. I don't believe Marine Le Pen would win. Actually, she wouldn't even be able to present herself. Maybe her party would win. That would be a disaster, in my opinion. I disagree with all of their program. And you know what? They keep changing their ideas. They were for Brexit. Now they say that they want to stay in the European Union, but that they want to help companies. Before that, they were more for workers. They're really difficult to read because they're very opportunistic. And I think the desires of a political party should not dictate the calendar or the agenda of a country, in particular, as you mentioned it before, in times where we're facing a massive economic crisis.
Does your party then have to drop huge planks of its policy agenda if it's going to win the support perhaps from a coalition on the left or perhaps from a coalition on the right?
It will, and it's actually shown that it's capable of doing so and that it's willing to work with virtually everyone. I'll give you an example. We are not in favor of tax raise. We are already a very high, a country where taxes are really, really high. And we've always opposed to new taxes. We've actually suppressed many of those. And the left believes that we need more money coming into the state and that we need to increase taxes. Well, we accepted that as an exceptional measure for a few years. And we're totally able to speak about virtually anything. But this needs to be a compromise and a discussion that takes place at the National Assembly, not something that is imposed by a minority coalition, as the left now seems to be willing to do.
Just finally, how serious do you think is the crisis facing France and its political system? Because, I mean, the reputation of your nation is at risk here, isn't it?
It is. And as I said, there is also the economic risk. But on the other hand, you've had similar crises in virtually all of the parliamentarian democracies. You've had Belgium without a government for more than a year. You've had Italy with a raffreddamento government after several political crises. I think what matters is not how bad the crisis is how capable you are of finding solutions. And as we speak today, even though the situation is worrisome, and even though I share most of my constituents' preoccupation, I do believe there is a way, and this solution still stands here at the National Assembly. And you can count on me to do everything in my power and in my group's power to find these compromises.
Well, that was Éléonore Caroit, who's an MP in President Macron's Renaissance Party, speaking to me just a little earlier here on Times Radio.